Good evening, everybody. Welcome to CW Live. My name's Chris Webb, Head of Communications at the CW. Delighted tonight to be joined by our General Secretary, Dave Ward. Evening, Dave.
Yeah.
And our Acting Deputy General Secretary, Postal, Andy Fury. How you doing, Andy?
Hi, everyone. Good, thank you.
So, thank you, buddy. Thank you to both of you. So I can see by the numbers on that you know what's at stake. What I want to say to you before we kick off is that we are going to be covering lots of new ground tonight. We're going to be giving you an update on the negotiations, areas that have been progress has been made on, areas that the union believes it can reach an agreement on. We're going to be giving you a reaction to what Royal Mail have done today with their unagreed preference exercise on in relation to VR. We're going to talk about the strike action next week, the week after, and potentially increasing that throughout December. And most importantly of all, we're going to be talking to you about how important it is that we hold our nerve as a union and we stick together and we see this through. So on that note, I want to say to you, listen, it's no good in the comments now, and I can see you're not actually, so it's brilliant, but it's no good in the comments saying, what about the union this? What about the union that? Royal Mail are watching this session. The CEO and senior managers will be watching this session and they'll be taking a temperature check. So please bear that in mind when you're in the comments, and bear in mind that you're not undermining the Royal Mail, you're not undermining anybody but ourselves and the unions. So if you are with your union, just simply put, I'm with my union in the comments now, and let's show Royal Mail and everyone watching just how much this support the union has. So I'm with my union in the comments now. And whilst you do that, I'm going to ask our General Secretary to give an update on what's been a quite mad period of time. Dave Ward.
Yeah, hi everybody. Look, we want to give you the fullest possible update tonight. We'll deal with the unagreed preference exercise that Royal Mail announced today, and we understand the concerns that may have put on, the pressure it's put on people, but we'll talk about that. We also want to take you through where we are in negotiations, but I want to start by being absolutely clear that if we don't reach an agreement in the next 5 or 6 days maximum, then the strikes planned, the 48-hour strikes planned for Black Friday and Cyber Monday will go ahead, and we'll be announcing tonight strikes throughout Christmas, and Andy will cover off some of the dates, or Chris, for that in a minute. And look, where we are is that the company have said today in their announcements to the markets that they want an agreement with the union, but they're planning ahead and they're trying to put their plan forward no matter what. Well, that's exactly where we are. We've got a plan ahead. And if we have to take strike action, you need to prepare for it. You need to stand with your union, because there's so much at stake here. We do want to stress, though, that we want an agreement. That's always been our objective. And we do believe that we can reach a good agreement with the company that's actually in the interest of not just our members, but also customers and the future of Royal Mail. But let me also be clear, that agreement cannot be the plan that Simon Thompson and the board are putting forward at the moment. It cannot be one that destroys our members' jobs, terms and conditions, and the services that we provide to the public. So the stakes are high. Let me give you a bit of background to what took place today. So in the negotiations, of course, we've been prioritising the issue of compulsory redundancies and voluntary redundancies, and how we manage the company's announcement. And I do want to say that even with the pathway to change agreement, there would have been redundancies in our industry. You know that, because that would have been linked to revision activity. And if work is falling off in both letters and parcels, that would have happened to some extent. But we would have done that through agreed revisions. And we still hope to deal with that situation in this way. But the timing of this today was totally and deliberately done to satisfy the markets. And people got to recognise that what we're dealing with here is the reality of privatisation, the reality of our major shareholders operate, and the reality, unfortunately, of our CEOs and the boards operate when they have to face the markets. So I don't think we should be surprised that the company have turned round and said today, after announcing about 3 or 4 weeks back that they had this plan on 10,000 jobs, that they were then going to say, well, now we're going ahead with that. Because this isn't about saving the industry. This is about saving the skin of Simon Thompson. And in their world, that is the only thing he could have done today, because otherwise he would have been out. Now, I know a lot of you believe that he should be out, and we don't have trust and confidence in people that are leading us into this crisis actually having the ability or the plan to lead us out of it. But you can trust the union. So where we got to on this issue was that actually we had made some progress in front of ACAS, where we'd made it clear that we wanted an absolute guarantee for no compulsory redundancies. We wanted the processes that apply in MTSF, which allow people to make good choices based on their individual circumstances, where there might have been a redundancy in one office, but somebody didn't want to leave. They can, what we call bumping, you can redeploy people. All of those processes are part of our agreement. I put that to the company. We also had a priority. It's got to be about moving away from agency workers, and it's got to be about making sure that everything is done in line with workload. Now, I'm going to say to you tonight, we made progress on those issues. The company and Simon Thompson's own words were fine. We believe we can agree that. Where we fell out with the company on this issue is on the terms. And, you know, I mean, look, the terms at the end of the day are not terms that we can endorse. We had an agreement that was based on 2-year max terms for people at the top end of the service and 6 months minimum. What they've done is put in front of us 9 months terms with 8 weeks minimum, 9 months max, 8 weeks minimum. And we were pushing hard for them to change that. And what they did last night was change that by increasing it by the £6,000. And as I said, that was all timed for the market day announcement that they've been involved in with their half yearly results today. So this is where we are on this. Look, we can't prioritise preference exercises. That at the end of the day, the company are going to go out and do that. And I'm going to say to you tonight, that is a matter for individuals to choose. Individuals will weigh that up based on their own personal circumstances. But the union can't endorse that particular offer on voluntary redundancy because it's so inferior to the one that we've actually had for some years now. And I can say to you that us and the company were exploring ways up until the day before yesterday to actually increase that amount. And we believe that there are still opportunities to do that. So, you know, it's up to individuals, but we cannot be distracted by the fact that preference exercises are going on. We can't stop that if the company want to do that. Our priority must be to get an absolute guarantee of no compulsory redundancies. And then we want to ensure that the process is done as fairly as possible. So that's where we are on that. And, you know, we want to talk to you about other aspects of the negotiations in a minute. But what we're saying to you is we don't want anybody getting involved in the revision activity or the negotiations on planning how a revision will be done. But our position is that we're still in the negotiations and we still want to reach an agreement with the company.
Thank you, Dave. Excellent. Andy, I want to come back if I can. I'm going to come right back on you on the preference exercise if I can. And Dave, I'll come back after that and we'll talk with you and Andy about the potential of escalating strike action. But on the preference exercise, Andy, I saw something earlier on. I'm trying to find it a second if I can. Yes. So there was a letter that went out from, I can't remember her title, Zarina Brown, head of people or something like that. It's one of the Royal Mail's senior managers on the preference exercise. And I thought this was really worth putting this to you and to Dave and across to our members tonight. If you look at this, I don't know if you can see it on your screen. I'll read the final paragraph out. This is a sad time for the business and we undertake this process regretfully. However, voluntary redundancy could be an appropriate choice for some, and understanding people's preferences will help us make the right decision for you. So Royal Mail there, our Chief People Officer, Serena Brown, saying they're going to make the decisions for our members, Andy Fury. So the MTSF process, based on seniority, based on an agreed format for the union, based on an agreed calculation, being replaced with, we'll pick who's going based on whoever is the cheapest and we'll tell you what's best for you. You know, I know Dave said there, which is absolutely spot on, individuals to make their choices, but don't seem much of a choice to me.
Yes, spot on, Chris. So, I mean, let's put this into perspective. The Managing Surplus Framework Agreement was introduced in 2002. And since then, we have delivered change after change through massive agreements, one after the other, where headcount has left the industry. And it's been done so by voluntary redundancy. We've ensured that there's been absolutely no compulsory redundancy across the whole of Royal Mail, pre-privatisation and post-privatisation. But what Royal Mail has done today, by dumbing down the terms of redundancy, is that they've made it more likely that they are going to turn to compulsory redundancy in due course. And that letter from the Chief People Officer is absolutely disgraceful in that what she is saying there is that they will determine who goes and they will make the choices for people. Now, that's not on. What's happened in the past is that we've always had an agreed criteria, a proper selection process, fair, transparent, and consistently applied, and not down to management to be able to pick and choose whoever they want. Our belief is they will pick the cheapest options time and time again. And quite frankly, seniority has gone out the window with their attempts today. Our members should be really angry. And our inboxes have been flooded by people being incensed by what the employer has done today. This is trying to get rid of people on the cheap. And if they can't get rid of people on the cheap, then they will turn to compulsion. And this is even more reason why, if we do have to take strike action next Thursday and Friday, every single member needs to get on those picket lines and defend this union, its members, the terms and conditions that we've fought hard for many years.
Thanks, Andy. I come back to you if I can on the issue. I mean, I think you and Andy have covered the VRF preference exercise, and I can see in the comments there our members absolutely battering Royal Mail for that, stunt that they pulled today and they pulled over the last few weeks. And by the way, thank you for everyone who said "I'm with my union" in the comments. Inspirational, stunning. And someone's just said there, worth remembering that whilst offering this VR package to our members, they wasted hundreds of millions on VR packages for managers just months ago, which is an absolute spot-on observation there. Dave, I want to put it to you. Obviously, we've got a strike action, as you and Andy have said, next week and the week after over the Black Friday, Cyber Monday period. Members have been saying, we're going to name December action, or we're going to up the ante, we're going to put pressure on. There's a feeling out there from some members saying, is the strike action working? Other members saying we need more of it. So we can announce now that the Postal Executive have agreed strike action to take place on Friday the 9th of December, Sunday the 11th of December, Wednesday the 14th of December, Thursday the 15th of December, Friday the 23rd of December, and Saturday the 24th of December. Dave, Andy, that's a significant escalation. Members in the comments, if you could put one of the phrases I noticed in Simon Thompson's press release today was whatever it takes. And Simon said he's going to do whatever it takes to support, to change the business in a way and destroy your terms and conditions. So if you're prepared to back the union and take this action, put whatever it takes in the comments now, and we'll get as many of those up on screen, whatever it takes. Dave, a significant injection and escalation of the strike action. Is it the right thing to do? And is the strike action working? Dave Ward.
Well, look, I mean, the strike action that we've announced, both the 248-hour strikes that were already on the table over Cyber Monday and Black Friday, plus all of the strike dates that have now been announced throughout Christmas, that is obviously at the peak pressure point for Royal Mail. And we've got to be serious about taking that strike action. I want to be crystal clear to everybody again, we are. That is what you have to do sometimes in order to make sure that we get an agreement that you deserve and that is going to secure the future of this company. And I know people will say, well, strike action, the company are moving their plans forward. But that's the reality where we are. We have to be ready to take that strike action. We'll do everything possible we can to reach an agreement. And we genuinely want to reach an agreement, but you have to tell Royal Mail, tell your managers in the morning that you're backing this union and you will be backing that strike action. Now, to make sure that we get our message out, we've called a national gate meeting day for next Tuesday. So there'll be meetings going on up and down the country. We will send out our key messages to our reps, to our members, and we want a big turnout next Tuesday. So that Royal Mail see how much you're going to back those strikes. This ain't a time for anybody to lose their nerve here. This is a big dispute. The company are going to throw things at us. That's what happens. These guys who are running this company haven't got a plan for the future. There's so much at stake here. If you care about your job, you care about the terms and conditions that we fought for over years and years, then you've got to keep backing our union, because it's only the union that is going to get the agreement that everybody deserves. And as I said earlier on, we care about customers. We know that we need an agreement that's going to involve change. And we also care about the future of Royal Mail a lot more than the people that are running it at the moment.
Thank you, Dave. Brilliant. And an inspiring response from the members as well. Andy, your take, I want to come to you and get your take on the action. And similar to the question put to Dave, really, of like the stakes is so high, and how important is it now that following this, obviously yourself, Dave, the other officers will be back in negotiations, will be trying to reach agreement. Dave and yourself both made that clear. That's the priority of the union. but we've now put some more pressure on them. How important is it that following this session, relentlessly, right up until that strike action, our reps get out there and hold meetings, our members convince each other in the workplaces, our senior officials, our field officials, our executive, get out there and face up to the members and deliver support for this union. Andy?
Well, look, we have to understand that if 10,000 jobs were removed from this industry, it would be an absolute mess that was left. Our members wouldn't be able to perform the work. Pressure would increase. Managers will be on your backs even more. We know it's in a chaos now. The state of the network, the reality of quality of service failures, and they haven't got a plan. All they want to do is to cut themselves to oblivion, and they've got further plans with potentially doing away with Saturday deliveries. That would save something like 4,000 jobs. They want to attack the customer service points. Mail centre closures. These are all incidences where the company will look to take out more and more jobs. So we have to draw a line in the sand, and we have to defend our jobs, defend our industry, and defend the service to the public. That's what we're doing. We've got no choice in this matter. Now, in terms of whether it's making any difference, Simon Thompson turned up at Wimbledon. He was quick to point this out on his social media. He was in there on Saturday, he was in there on Sunday meeting Dave and I, and we are negotiating, and we plan to do so again. But the reality is, having gone out with that unagreed preference exercise today, having announced 10,000 job losses with the basis of 9 months redundancy costs, benefits to people, which are not benefits compared to what it was previously 2 years, we had no choice but to escalate the action and take further action. Look, I view this like a boxing match. You're in the ring and you're trading punches. Now, Royal Mail might trade a punch, but we're going to hit them back harder. We're going to hit them back harder. We're going to sustain that punching, and we're going to ensure that we win this dispute. Our members are strong, and they will prevail. I'm absolutely certain of that.
Thank you, Andy. Brilliant from both of you. So, Dave, I wanted to, if I could, move on. Obviously, you've been saying, that we had negotiations. We put the update out to members yesterday, which was quite a broad update. Yourself and Andy committed to giving members a more follow-up update on the negotiations. So anyone watching now, where we're going with a strike action. You know where we're going and what our recommendation position is on the VR exercise that's going on. It's time now to give you an update on the negotiations that have been taking place. Before Dave speaks, so we've had 27,000 people live, which is a record for the union on a live event. But let's make it 30,000. Share the link, put your name, tag your friends in the comments, etc., etc. Let's make this absolutely massive, and keep putting whatever it takes in the comments. I can't keep up with them, but I'm trying to get as many as I can on screen. Dave, an update in some detail, if I can ask you, on the negotiations.
Yeah, okay. So, look, the first thing I want to say, and we've taken the executive through this, we'll be taking our field officials through this in more detail tomorrow. Is that the scope of the talks that we're involved in is immense. It covers so many areas. We have a very clear view on how we can deal with this. So what we've put to the company, which they felt was a good way forward, was that we are looking for a series of principles that are very clear in their intent, that deal with all of the fundamental issues that we're facing, that we would then have those principles, so everybody would see the direction we're taking. Everybody would understand what the position is on some of the key things, which I'll come on to in a minute, which you'll be concerned about. But then where there was a requirement for further talks, there would be a time-bound further set of negotiations to follow up on some of the detail on that. But turning to some of the principles, I mean, obviously for us, we cannot ever sign up to a figure of redundancies. But I want to come back to the reality of the pathway to change agreement, where we did agree change. We agreed that this company needed to move to a 24/7 network, and a parcel network at that. So, our first priority is to get that guarantee of no compulsory redundancies. And the company did send back a draft to us that had that in it. Unfortunately, it had other things in it that contradicted that. And therefore, we've got to go back and get that back on the table. But I am saying to you honestly, Simon Thompson, when he saw our draft on how we should handle the redundancies, actually said it was fine, apart from the terms, where they didn't believe that they were affordable. And as we've pointed out consistently, the reason that they might not be affordable now is because of the huge mistakes that the company have made in mismanaging their finances. And we can't afford to pay the price for that. So we need that guarantee. That's not going to be easy. And we need to know that with that, we've got a plan that will genuinely avoid compulsory redundancies. A second area I want to cover is pay. So we've been discussing pay. You'll remember that Simon Thompson has said consistently more pay for more change. What we've put to them is that rather than a 2-year deal, which we cannot accept the amount that they've put on the table for those 2 years, that we would look at an 18-month deal. And they have said that they are prepared to reach an agreement on an 18-month pay deal. Now, even on their offer, what that would do, if you go back to the offer that they claimed was worth 9% over 2 years, which it's not worth 9%. The true figure is it's an exit rate of 7% over 2 years on basic pay, plus a £500 lump sum, which they claim is worth another 2%. But that's not a consolidated figure. Just by moving to an 18-month deal, basically it makes that deal, even their deal, worth more than what it is currently. So it would mean an exit rate of 8.5% on basic pay and the £500 lump sum on top of that. Now, we want to look at that. We want to try and shape a deal which we genuinely think is the best we can reach. And we recognise that when it comes to change, where the company have put £500 onto revisions and activity that are be associated with local change, we don't think that's enough. So, yes, they're going to say they ain't got a lot of money, but it is interesting that at certain points along the way here, when it comes to keeping managers on board, they found extra money. When it comes to putting the terms up to try and destabilise the union on the voluntary redundancies, they found another £6,000 per head last night. Now, we're doing all of the sums. We haven't said everything we can say to you about ways of upping the money and upping the voluntary redundancy terms. But what I will say and repeat, the company up until the day before yesterday and ourselves felt that we'd found a way of increasing the pot. It was only because getting access to that money at this point wasn't as going to happen as quick as their meeting today that they decided to abandon that approach. That approach can still be put on the table. So I'd say to anybody who's thinking about where we are on voluntary redundancy terms, where we are on pay, we believe we can still reach a good agreement in the circumstances that the company's facing. There's been a lot of debate about the future of the parcel network. And what the company have said today and what we've been talking about is the reality that now that they've built the mega hubs that they've built, clearly there is going to be a different parcel network. Our priority is to ensure that that is actually owned and run by the Royal Mail Group and that it's not sold off to another company, which is what it would be if it was completely separate from Royal Mail. What we've said, we're up for one parcel network where Parcel Force would come into the Royal Mail Group, where there would be a harmonisation and levelling up where necessary of Parcel Force member terms and conditions. And the company have said that they're prepared to do that. But they want, I think it's around 33% an increase in owner drivers as a first step. That's about 400 owner drivers. Our problem with that debate is that we haven't yet been able to see the overall agreement in a shape where we could ever accept that. And the danger is that that first step will be followed by other steps. And what we've always feared here is that what Royal Mail are really about is getting rid of our existing workers and bringing in more owner drivers to be exactly the same as the model that is operated by our competitors. We think we can do harmonisation and create one parcel network in everybody's interest, including the companies, where our members follow the work where necessary, where there is a 24/7 network, and one where we level up, not level down. So if they're prepared to work towards an agreement that levels up, and that may not take place straight away, that might happen over a couple of years and against agreed milestones, then we're up for that debate. There has been some indication from the company that they'll move on later starts, not enough, but they are talking about that. And what we've been saying to the company is we're not up for an agreement that puts all of our eggs in one basket, where it just becomes another parcel company. And we've been pushing them hard on expanding the role of postal workers and creating other products and services. We think that we can reinvigorate that approach, and we think we can get an agreement that genuinely will be about growth. Now, the company are considering that, and some indications from them, and that's important in the later start issue, because what we're saying to the company is, if you close down the infrastructure of the company at the moment, you are abandoning opportunities for growth. And I would summarize that by saying we've made some very strong points, which they know are right. But what they're about at the moment is the dash for cash. And it's really about how we turn this into a proper debate about the future of the company. So there was some movement on later starts where they were talking about making a move initially, not as far as we want to go at all, because we know how important that is to our members, but equally where we would then look at a different business plan approach for a period of time whilst there was no further movement on later starts. On Sundays, we think that we can reach an agreement on Sundays. You've already seen under pressure that the company have started to say to you directly now that yes, we can continue with voluntary attendances on Sundays. We'll take that, of course we will. But we also know that they want to bring in, if you don't get the volunteers, owner drivers again on less pay to do that work. Now, we may acknowledge in an agreement that that's their prerogative at some point on the basis of it being voluntary. But what we want to do is, and we believe the company will agree this, is set aside about 3 months where we can work out innovative attendance patterns that will actually be attractive for people as part of a solution as well. But again, we believe that the voluntary side of that at the moment is important to our members. And we don't think that's going to be a major issue or obstacle in these talks. So look, there's a run through. Had to go through that in a bit of detail. I will say to you that we're going to go through that with our field officials a bit more, and we can visualize an agreement. But there are certain things that we cannot accept. And some of the plans the company are putting forward, the impact on the network, on mail centres, with the USO, we're not talking 10,000 jobs here. We're talking probably double that amount of jobs and more. And it's important that they're as honest with you as what we are. And that is what's blocking progress on agreements. They are only looking at the short-term future on how they say to the markets, we've turned this company around and we've made, lots of savings. What we're saying is you need to tough it out during this particular period with the economy, with the fall off in volumes, and we should be looking at other ways of building growth. So, I'm trying to give you a flavour of how the talks are shaping up. Let's hope we can continue to negotiate. Let's hope we can get the agreement that we're talking about, and we're not going to be agreeing the plan that they're talking about.
Thanks, Dave. It's an excellent and detailed update from you there. Got some really important things to go through, but just going to take a minute out or so now because I want to mark the fact that, and whilst we've got Andy here, it's very opportune, obviously the relevant national officer, give you, Andy, the chance to give just a moment or so's recognition to the fantastic ballot result from our post office members today, a reballot as well. Tremendous result. Andy Fury.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So, look, our post office members have been in dispute with overpay for most of this year. We delivered a 97% yes vote back in March. Strikes have taken place throughout the summer and into the early autumn. And we had to reballot again because the legislation says that a ballot only lasts for 6 months. We did 2 ballots, ballot for short of strike action and a ballot for strike action. And our members once again delivered 2 magnificent yes votes with over 90% yes on both ballots. So a great outcome. Once again, our post office members have delivered. We hope to get into negotiations very quickly. We want to get a deal, a way forward on that. But if we can't get a deal in the short term, then we will be serving notice for further action. Chris, if I could just make one point about the job losses. It's what is not known by many of our members is exactly how many agency workers are actually in Royal Mail. When we got the legal document notifying us of redundancies earlier this week, first and foremost, it said 9 months redundancy pay, didn't include the £6,000. So as Dave said, that changed late last night. But also it indicated, because it has to, that there's 11,200 agency workers spread out across the whole of the Royal Mail group. Now, the reality here is Royal Mail's got it within its own gift, its own hands, to actually get rid of those agency workers and actually start to right-size the company, as they call it, by taking out agency workers rather than attacking permanent employees. So look, our challenge to Royal Mail here is very simple. If you want to reduce your costs, switch off the agency workers. The other factor that needs to be taken into account is this year alone, the company has paid out £567 million to shareholders through dividends and buyback. That's £567 million that's been squandered, that could have been used to invest in this industry and has been taken away from people by reducing the terms of MTSF from the 2 years maximum down to the 9 months and £6,000. Just think that through. £567 million has gone to shareholders. That's a waste of money that could have been used to protect this industry and move forward.
Thanks, Andy. It's always good to remind them of that as well. I think spot on. Dave, interesting enough, you mentioned obviously you hope the negotiations will carry on. I can see on the workplace platform, you obviously can't see it. Simon Thompson's posting. He's watching the session. So, hiya, Simon. Nice to have you with us, buddy. He's put up the strike dates that have been announced today, and he said, "Team just in, should we keep talking? What do you think?" So he's asking the management community and some of our members on workplace whether we should keep talking. He also said, text from my script today, it is our preference, it is my preference that the CW are alongside us. So Simon pointing out how keen he is to keep working with us. He does admit, and I'll also quote what he said to the press today, which was the talks with the CW continue, although we are already moving ahead with the required changes. So I'm not sure you're saying one thing in your internal correspondence there, Simon, and then maybe a different one in what you put out to the press. But so if you think Simon Thompson should be back in the talks, put back in the talks tomorrow, Simon, in the comments now. Dave, so that's back in the talks, Simon. Dave, obviously you've given a wide update there, and obviously Andy's supported that. One of the issues I really want to comment on is the amount of CW reps who have been attacked totally unjustifiably by the business. The amount of our reps who are suspended, facing conduct charges, many of them absolutely, or most of them, probably all of them, absolutely outrageous fit ops. And our reps, and I can see brilliantly our members are saying, you know, what about my rep? Are you going to get, is this union going to protect my CW rep who's put themselves on the line? And obviously, as we build for the strikes next week, this is Royal Mail taking out, you know, our people out in the field who are trying to sell the union's message as well, Dave. So a word on our reps.
Yeah, I mean, look, our reps are the best in any union in the country, and that's because there's so many of them that are so committed to representing our members. And when reps are attacked in the way that they are, remember they're all volunteers, then we have to do everything possible to get behind our reps. And I know that in offices where reps have been suspended, that you are doing that. And the commitment that we're making to you is that we will get behind our reps and we will address that issue as part of any final agreement. It's not unusual in a dispute that when emotions are running high, and there's lots of managers, and you've seen many of them, and many of you have contacted us, which we passed on to the business, who act in a completely out of order way. They do that sometimes all the time, but in disputes, they goad people, they cause problems that they don't have to when picket lines are fine, and they're out there to cause as much havoc as they can. But what they also do is fit people up. And we have got to go through each of those cases. We've got to make sure that when we get an agreement, that we've looked after our representatives. I am going to say to you that obviously, if there's issues that have happened where the evidence is such and they're very, very serious things, then, sometimes, unfortunately, that happens. But our position, as it has been in previous disputes, we've always managed to get a process in an agreement that eventually ends up looking after the reps and making sure those who have been treated unfairly are back at work. And that's what we're going to continue to look at.
Thanks, Dave. Brilliant. Andy, in that sort of update from yourself and Dave, one of the things that I wanted to try and draw out on negotiations, a lot of our people are asking, reps are asking, is our national agreement, stuff like the industrial relations framework, some of the legal protections that the company has served notice on. What have the talks been saying, Andy, on some of those things potentially coming back in different forms? Has any been any discussion on those?
Well, look, the discussions actually have been quite extensive and went on for many, many days. Simon Thompson was in our office in Wimbledon for 4 or 5 days running. So we did start to make good progress. Unfortunately, they walked away from the talks to focus on their markets day to day and announcing the 6 monthly results. But the reality is we have also pushed them on protecting all of the agreements, such as the IR framework agreement, the check-off arrangements for union subscriptions, all of those ancillary agreements that are equally important to protecting people's well-being, safeguarding them and defending their roles and jobs. So yes, those issues are up for negotiation and we are pushing them hard to ensure that we protect all those agreements going forward. Look, the reality here is we need an agreement, but so does the employer. The employer can't bring in the change that it wants without our support and cooperation. The best way forward here is to get around this bargaining table in a meaningful way and start to compromise and start to move towards us. We will be reasonable and fair in our aspirations and our objectives, but so does Royal Mail need to be as well. We can do that. In the absence of reaching a decent agreement, we do need to go again and up our action and take further action during those critical periods over the Black Friday and Cyber Monday weekends.
Thank you, Andy. Brilliant. I want to give you the chance. Obviously, you talked earlier on. I think you mentioned it, and then Andy mentioned it as well. Now, really, I mean, it's about mindset. I want to try and put this point across to you of you, Andy, our officers are going to go back into negotiations. That's what we want. We're going to aim to reach an agreement with a company. But it is also crucial, the environment that's taking place outside of those discussions. And obviously, sometimes when you go into intensive negotiations, as you have done for the last, week, 10 days, there's a lot of noise outside of that. Is there going to be a deal? Are we relaxing a bit on the membership meetings? And things like that. We now have to re-pick up momentum. We're a week from massive strike action on the 24th and the 25th. Just how important, Dave? Obviously, we've got National Gate Meeting Day next Tuesday, when I'm sure there'll be hundreds, if not thousands, of meetings across the country. How important is it that the union, outside of those interviews who are going to be in the room, every single one of us concentrates on building the biggest possible support for that strike action should it's needed? So you're walking in the room knowing that 120,000 postal workers are behind you and Royal Mail are walking in the room knowing that 120,000 postal workers are against them. Dave?
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up very well there, Chris. I mean, look, that's the role of our representatives. The representatives that we've got in this union are at all levels. Our field officials, our branch reps, our area reps, across the whole of the Royal Mail Group, Royal Mail, Parcel Force, Fleet, everywhere. We've got reps, and their job and our members' job is to get ready for that strike action. And you know, we've got experienced reps here, and I know everybody wants to get an update every so often. And I know that the events of the last 48 hours, which we communicated before the company did today, can be seen as destabilising, frustrating. You know, what's the union doing about it? But you know, I've got to remind you all that these guys are out to destroy your jobs, your terms, your conditions, and this union. That's their plan B. And the balance here is whether we've got the strength of our members behind us in order to make sure that they realise the best way forward is to reach an agreement. So be absolutely clear. I'm saying this to all our reps. You know, you can ask us for updates and we'll give them. But there's never been a time in any dispute where in intense negotiations you're able to give updates all the time. We've tried to give you a flavour of that tonight, but your job is to prepare next week. You talked about mindsets, Chris. The mindset that we believe the company know deep down that we're in is that we want to reach an agreement. We need them to be in the same mindset. I think what's happened in the last couple of days is that they've switched from wanting an agreement because they had to face the markets. And market pressures, we understand what's going on there. They are very big because major shareholders are looking at that. But what I'd say to the shareholders, and we will be talking to major shareholders ourselves, and that will be an interesting and a good meeting for us soon, is that there's a better plan to get and build the future of this company and get us out of the position that we're in at the moment, which we do acknowledge. There is some serious challenges facing the company. We've always acknowledged that. The extent of that and their finances, you know, at the end of the day, they know all the data on that. We don't, but we acknowledge the fact that there are serious challenges. You know, if the company think that they can get through this with a mindset of not reaching an agreement, this company ain't going to survive. So if Simon Thompson is watching, Simon, you know that we're serious about reaching an agreement. You know we've put some very good alternative ideas forward that will help this company build for the future. Start having some faith in reaching an agreement. Come here ready to compromise like we are, and we'll get there. So it's up to him. But our reps in the meantime, sorry for going all around the houses there, Chris, but I wanted to pick up the point that he's watching. The reps have got one job to do at the moment. Get out there and get our members ready for the next strike action. Let's hope we deliver an agreement before that, though.
Thank you, Dave. And yeah, I think Simon is watching because he's live and well on Workplace. And it's good to have you with us, Simon. Good to have you bumping up the viewing figures. I'll take any viewer myself as the stats. Andy, I want to ask you for your final comments. By the way, on what I think's been an excellent session. I want to thank we always thank the members at the end, but I also want to thank him before you two give your closing comments, because the comments and the support has been unbelievable tonight. So thank you. I mean, people were in the comment with stuff like we haven't one thing we haven't covered, and I'm not going to put this to you two as a question, is lots of some of our members from Parcel Force, Fleet, etc. What about us? What about that? This is a Royal Mail Group dispute. We're a Royal Mail Group represented in union. Nobody will be left behind come the end of this agreement. Everyone is being treated exactly the same. So no one in one of our minority grades needs to worry whatsoever. But thank you to the members. Brilliant. Andy, your closing comments, buddy.
Well, look, this is always going to be a tough dispute. We knew that from the outset, and we have to roll with the punches, as I said earlier on about the boxing match. But I'm absolutely certain our members are determined, they're strong, they will come through this united, and we will end up prevailing. I recall that Simon Thompson talked about that the trade union was acting like the trade unions of the 70s. What this company is doing is acting like Victorian mill owners from Victorian days. We're not prepared to accept that. Our members run this industry. Our members care about this industry. They care about the customer and the service that we provide. There is no Royal Mail without our members. Our members deserve so much better. They deserve more respect from the employer. They deserve job protection. We're not going to accept any compulsory redundancies whatsoever in any area across Royal Mail. We are going to continue to defend our agreements, our terms and conditions, and our jobs. And I'm certain that our members will be up for that fight if we can't negotiate in the coming days an agreement. Our priority and preference is always an agreement, but if we can't.
We lost Andy there, Dave.
Thank you, everybody.
I think we got most of that, buddy. We got most of that. That's fantastic, mate. Dave, your closing words, my friend.
Yeah, look, I'd say to all our members that because the stakes are so high, the company are going to keep throwing things at us. And we do understand that people get frustrated by that. But this trade union is the only group that you're members of that will stand up for you on your jobs, on your terms, on your conditions. That's what we've been doing for years and years and years. And we are the strongest union in the country. If that wasn't true, let me be clear, there's no other union in the country that's dealt with privatisation the way that we have. We wouldn't be in the place we're in today having this dispute because we were privatised 9 years ago, and the agreements that we struck then have served us really, really well. And that's why the pressures that are coming on now is because we've restricted privatisation. You've got a choice to make, our members. Always remember this. It's either you back us or you're backing them. And if we get to the point here where we get an agreement, it will only come from you standing with your union, standing with your fellow workers, standing with your friends, all of your colleagues, because it's our collective strength that will ultimately reach an agreement. You stand with us, we stand with you, and we're going to get there. Have faith in that.
Spot on, Dave. There's nothing more that I or anyone else could add to that. Fantastic finish, Dave. Come on, everybody. Stick with union, back in the workplace, back in their faces tomorrow. Get ready for the strike action and get behind Dave, Andy, and the officers as they head to negotiations. Thanks for your support. Good night, everybody.